Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a championship prediction video. I'm buzzing for this. I realised over the international break that this is one of my favourite videos to record or stream live because Ollie does most of the work. How's it going, mate? Welcome to the stream.
Yes, not too bad. Thank you, Nick. Not too bad. I'm asking viewers to bear with me because I've got the Rona, as is the way of the world these days. I've got the Rona. So unfortunately, I'm not quite at full form. So if I ever turn off my camera, it's because I've gone to have a coughing fit that I didn't think you'd all want to see.
Fair enough, mate. But you're feeling all right in yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's WrestleMania weekend, so I can be nothing but fine.
I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, Ollie, but you're into so many things that I were into when I was like 12.
Yes.
That weren't disrespectful, were it?
No, not at all, mate. Not at all. I've always enjoyed being compared to a 12-year-old.
Anyway, let's move on from that. And let's talk about the last time we did a video like this because it was such a long time ago. I can't even remember how many points I got, how many points you got. So I'm just going to throw up on the screen the predictions table. And I'm closing the gap. And the viewers are flying away.
Literally 100 points ahead.
We were talking about that, weren't we, last time? Like the viewers were already 100 in front of me, but they are finally 100 in front of you now. So yeah, I wonder if can they get to 500 by the end of the season? Probably not.
It's asking a lot. It would be asking a lot. I think we've got 8 games left. So you're talking to get to 500, they'd need about 13 points a week, something like that, maybe more. So it'd be asking a lot.
Yeah, because if there's 10 games left and you got 15 points, that's 150 points. So I think it's way more than, I think it's probably 17, 18 points. Quick maths.
Like don't try and do maths live because you're an idiot.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
No, that's fine. But this week, there are some people still to shout out. On the last video, I shamed myself. I forgot to go through and to check who had been our viewers' victor. I have not forgotten to do it this time. And we've had some really good scores. So the last game week that we did was midweek before the final game. So it was when United played Sunderland, for example. I think Blackburn played Reading, something like that. But we had some fantastic scores coming in. James Stribley, definitely worth a shout out with 13. But we had tied leaders. We had King Liam, who got his perfect banker in for 14 points. And we had our old favourite, friend of the show, Shazbat, who got herself 14 points, top of the league.
Top of the league. She's having a laugh. She really is. Shall we crack on, mate? Shall we crack on?
Crack on.
To be fair, we missed game week 38, didn't we? And I feel so bad about that. However, it would have been impossible to do. Neither of us could do it. So let's just put all our efforts into this one.
Yes, indeed. And actually, I left it on a teaser. Where was I for game week 38? Why did I miss it? Nothing exciting, to be honest. I told you all that, I'll tell you next time as if it was some big reveal. My mum watches these videos and she was getting a secret award. She didn't know she was going to win. And so I had to go to that. So yeah, not exciting at all. But that's why I wasn't here. And that's why I couldn't tell you what it was for.
Okay, so you've already made a mistake there. Because your mum watches these videos and you said, nothing exciting, just my mum winning an award.
Yeah, that's exactly how I sold it. And to be honest, that's how I sold it on the night. I turned up, she got a reward. I'm like, oh, well done, let's get off.
Well, that's pretty much what we did when we watched Roker Report win the award that we wanted to win. But anyway, we're going to win it next year. We're going to win it next year. Now, let's talk about Burnley versus Sunderland. And I've gone for a big old Burnley win. I've gone for a 3-0 win because that's what Burnley do. You've gone for a 2-2, which we both saw that Sunderland weren't that good when we played them. I'm going to say at Roker Park. I'm getting Roker Report and Roker Park in my head. At the Sol, as people seem to like to call it at the moment. So what are you doing? What are you playing at?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. I've had a bit of a rush of blood to the head, haven't I? You know, I think eventually Burnley are a fantastic team. I think the best team in the league, but I say that every week. And even I get a little bit tired of hearing me say how good Burnley are. And so at some point, I have to predict them not to win. And I think Sunderland's a surprisingly difficult game. You know, they are still a good team. They're probably out of the playoff running now, but if they ever do want to do anything with that for this end of the season, they've got to start getting some positive results. And this would be a fantastic result for them. And hopefully that'd mean that Burnley get really angry for when they play Borough the week after.
Yes, but also they've got us soon as well. So we don't want them too angry.
Yeah. I think the main thing is, obviously, I think depending on how results go, there's a small chance that when they play us on Easter Monday, they can get promoted in that game. So we probably could do with Burnley dropping some points before then so that they're not in attack mode that day.
Yeah, definitely. However, are they going to be on the beach at any point soon?
Probably after they play us when they automatically get promoted.
Yeah, we don't want that. Anyway, let's move on. Everybody's gone for a Burnley win pretty much in the comments. Trying to find one that isn't. Nope. Everyone's gone for a Burnley win. Let's move on to
Jack
Luton
Shaw's
Town.
on my side. Jack Shaw. I found one. Jack Shaw thinks 2-1 Sunderland.
Jack's off his head then. I probably brought it up to save Jack's blushes. But let's move on to Luton Town versus Chris Wilder's Watford. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one to predict. Obviously, Luton have had a fantastic season so far. They've been really flying. And really, to be honest, they'll probably say, why are we not being talked about for automatic promotion? Because they're not that far away. They're only 3 behind Middlesbrough. So they really have been on a cracking run. But this is a really difficult game for anyone. You know, I still think that Wilder is going to have a really positive effect at Watford between now and the end of the season. I'm still backing them, I think, to get that last playoff spot. They're a long way away, but I think they'll get away. But it's Watford in it, so you can never predict quite where they're going to go. But I think this will be a really good game. I think it'll be a decent watch, and I think 1-1's probably about right, and both teams would be relatively happy with it.
Yeah, I've gone for the Luton scoreline, 1-0, because that's what Luton do, because Luton in it?
Luton.
1-0. It's always 1-0. It's pretty much
Luton.
Always 1-0, except for a few occasions. Gabe has gone for a 0-0. We've got a lot of Luton wins in there. We've also got one Watford win in there, which I don't know. Luton are a hard team to beat or even get a point on. Like we saw that at Bramall Lane, how good they were at defending. So, James has gone for a 2-2. I agree. I think that Chris Wilder will have a positive effect. I just don't think it's going to be enough to get them playoffs, because I thought they were a lot closer to the playoffs than they actually are. Yeah. So, I can't see them winning enough points to gain promotion, especially with how well all the other playoff teams are playing. Like Blackburn are fantastic at the moment, or every other game. Blackburn are fantastic. Luton, fantastic. Millwall, they're a hard team to beat. There's some really good teams in there. And Middlesbrough are all right, I suppose, because they're obviously going to be in the playoffs. Let's move on. Let's talk about Preston North End versus Blackpool Football Club. And this, my friend, is a derby, isn't it?
Another one. Yeah, that's 2 in a row. Obviously, Luton, Watford. Then we've gone into Preston, Blackpool. It's Derby Central this weekend. But this one, for me, is a pretty easy one to predict. You know, I'm not even worried about Preston being rubbish at home, because I'm just comfortable in this one. I don't think Blackpool have really got enough. They've really struggled to score goals recently. They're going to a team who, Preston haven't really got anything to play for. I was actually speaking to a Preston fan, though, I think it was yesterday on Gab Sutton's show, and he was saying that actually this is all that Preston have got left to play for this season. If they can beat Blackpool now, they'll probably end it and say, yeah, that was a decent season. But if they lose it, that'll mean that Blackpool have done the double on them, and I don't think they're going to want to see that. So I just think this will be a regulation home win.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we always think Preston as that club that just finished mid-table pretty much every season. And that, what you've just said to me, just outlines the fact that it's another mediocre season for Preston. They've had some really good wins, but they've been so inconsistent. So, let's move on from talking about mediocrity and let's talk about Birmingham City versus Blackburn Rovers. That wasn't a very good segue, because they're both pretty mediocre at times. Blackburn Rovers can be scintillating, but it's not consistent enough.
No, of course. And Blackburn can be absolutely brilliant, can't they? Look, we saw that pretty much in the last game before the break when we played them at Bramall Lane. They, played some really great football. They scored one fantastic goal for their second one. Defenders went to sleep, but it's still a nice goal from their perspective. But we also saw the other side of it. We saw the way that they can throw away games and how they can sometimes just not have enough consistency to really battle themselves through the difficult periods. And I think this is one of those games where there will be difficult periods. Birmingham's still not quite safe. Will want a few more points on the board to really say, yeah, comfortable, we'll be in the Championship next season. And they'll target home games like this one to just say, just don't get beat. And I think they'll be comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah, I think that we've got a lot of Blackburn wins in the comments. Joachim agrees with you. I've got a couple that agree with me, Daniel and Matt. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games where one goal between them, really. Yeah. Either that or a draw. It's going to be a tight game, whatever. But saying that, Blackburn can score 2, 3, 4 goals if they want to, if they turn it on. So anyway, let's move on to talking about Bristol City versus Reading. And this, for me, this is a game where neither of them are going to do anything. And are Reading getting that points deduction?
I think that's the question, isn't it? I think if Reading do get a points deduction, if you're talking 3 points like what Wigan got, they'll probably be fine. If you're talking 9 points, as we've seen other teams get for financial problems, then they're suddenly in that conversation about teams who will be looking at relegation with a worried eye. Either way, I still think they're not a very good team away from home. I think they've had a decent season. That this is 2 teams who are on merit, regardless of what else happens, on merit, going to finish mid-table. But I think Bristol City will probably just be too good for him on a one-on-one game, especially over 90 minutes, especially at Bristol City, because Reading just can't travel.
Yeah, exactly. I'll pop up a few more. I think that Sheffield United FTV is a bit far behind, so I'm not going to pop them up on screen. What I will say is, though, is Paul Ince embarrassing himself at the moment with all these crazy interviews that he's doing and he's just saying some really odd things. Have you seen what he's been saying?
I mean, I think he's always embarrassing himself recently. I know he comes out with a lot of excuses or other things to blame that very rarely means that he can reflect on his own performances or anything that he and his team are doing wrong. Sometimes you look at managers and you say, yes, well done. You've deflected it effectively so that your team aren't getting the blame. But that's not even what happens here. People just look at what he said. They think, no, you're stupid. Your team's still not the ones who are performing. And it's a shame. It just doesn't seem to work the way that I think he's aiming for.
No, definitely not. That's the reason why he's late. Scoring loads of bloody goals, isn't he?
That's all right, isn't it?
Absolutely killing it. We've also got Damien Heaven joining, and Damien Heaven is an absolute legend who gives us lots of money. So thank you very much, Damien. We are both keeping very well. I'm keeping very well. Ollie, on the other hand, not so much.
No, but I'll get there. I'll be better soon. Like I say, soon as the bell rings, 12 o'clock on Saturday night, I'll soon be fighting fit once again.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about Battle of the Cities and
Battle of the Welsh Cities.
Welsh Cities and a massive derby between the two. Because I don't know how far Cardiff and Swansea are from each other, but they're Welsh and it's a derby.
Yeah, it's a big derby in terms of the Championship, and I just cannot believe that this is a 3 o'clock on a Saturday game. Just got no idea where that has come from, because surely this is the kind of game that you want on Sky. This is the ones that you see on Sunday afternoon, 12 o'clock, or you see it as the early kickoff so that everyone can sort of gather around and see it. But, maybe it's better for the fans. Maybe they want it to be 3 o'clock on a Saturday. You know how much we complain when they move our games. But I'm glad that Damien joined us just in time to see you predict his team to lose this massive derby, Nick.
Yes. I like going for home teams in derbies. Let's just call it that, shall we? League of 72. If you haven't seen the video already, go and subscribe to League of 72. Ollie's on there for the second time. Only the second time?
Yeah, for the second time, just doing some League 72 video. So this one was a Championship promotions predictions show kind of thing. So I sat down with a Middlesbrough fan, sat down with some Sky guests. I think it was Sam Parkin, Don Goodman, and David Prutton, and we talked all things about the automatic promotion race from the Championship, whether or not it's going to be us that make it, whether it's going to be Borough that make it. They also did a second filming on that day where they went through the playoff race as well, breaking down all the teams who are the runners and riders and who we think is going to make it. So do go to League 72 and check that one out. You'll get to listen to me talk some rubbish. And, you know, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
He's being modest. He says some really, really great things. It's one of them where you know when Ollie's going to talk about Sheffield United, you're going to agree with 99.9% of what he says because he's a great, great guy with great, great views, except for when he's talking about Bristol City, constantly going against them.
Yeah, I have a blind spot when it comes to Bristol City, so we'll not hold that against me. But Cardiff City fans might hold it against me because apparently I always go against them as well. You know, I've got them to lose the derby. I think Damien's pointed out there that this would be the double, I believe, for Swansea. That'd be 4 in a row in terms of derby wins. It'd be a massive, massive result for them. You know, I think the second half of this season in particular has been really disappointing from a Swansea perspective. So they'll really want to push on and have something to show for it, get something to shout about. And I think this is as good a chance as any for them to really cement how much better they are than Cardiff at the minute.
Yeah, very true. But the thing is with derbies, I know it's a cliche, but anything can happen in derbies, can't it? I've seen us lose to Sheffield Wednesday quite a few times when we are miles the better team. It just happens sometimes. So we've both gone for similar scorelines, just the other way around. I think it's going to be a tight game unless I think it was Callum Robinson gets sent off like he did. I think it was the last time anyway. Damien will have to tell us that. But let's move on in the time being to talk about another
Battle of the Cities.
Get it. This is my favourite part of the video. Every video. It's Coventry City versus Stoke City. And I've gone for a crazy one. However, it's not that crazy because Stoke City have been in fine form just before the international break. They got that draw against Middlesbrough. They've been spanking teams, scoring loads and loads of goals. Also, Coventry do like to score a few goals themselves. So that's why I've gone for 5 goals in this game and Stoke to come out victors.
Yeah, I certainly think this is a game for goals. You know, these two teams who have shown in their more recent games that they can score goals. They very rarely play games to just finish 0-0. Coventry, though, have a really good defence. I think they've got the most clean sheets in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, it's not against their own possibility that they could keep Stoke out and could keep them out fairly comfortably. I think Coventry are everyone's dark horse to make that last playoff spot. You know, they've actually come in a little bit under the radar on a fantastic run. And they came up a lot during the League of 72 conversation where we were talking about a team who possibly could just take it through and could be the ones who really kick on. So, yeah, I'm backing a home win for this one. I think Mark Robbins did a fantastic job turning them around after such a difficult start to the season.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's move on to talking about Huddersfield Town versus Middlesbrough. I'm going more heart than head here.
I was just going to say, Nick,
however,
that's hope, isn't it? That's hope, not expectation.
Do you know what? Slightly hope, but also, who is the manager of Huddersfield?
Warnock.
Who did he used to manage?
Everyone. Oh, sorry, you mean Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough and Sheffield United. Who is he a fan of? Sheffield United. I think Wazza is going to get his players right up for this game. And I think there is a slim possibility that they could get a draw out of this game. The only reason why I see this going massively Middlesbrough's way, if they get an early goal, if Huddersfield can keep them out for 45 to 60 minutes, I feel like they could go on and get a draw out of this. An early Huddersfield goal, and I think this is the scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, if the game is going to play out anything like a 1-1, I think Huddersfield score early. I think they really, really schoolhouse their way through this one. Colin doing typical Colin things for this kind of game. But no, I just don't see it myself. I think, you know, Middlesbrough are just a very, very good team. I think that they will probably just run away with this. I could see them scoring early. and then really go into town, as they have done with so many other teams at the moment. Don't get me wrong, I think there are potential flaws in that Borough team. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a canter for them, but I do think that it will be this week, because I just don't see how Huddersfield could lay a glove on them.
Right, well, I'm going to clip this when Huddersfield come away with a 1-1 draw.
Do it, Nick.
We've also got a Huddersfield 1-0 win here from Alessandro. We've got a couple of Huddersfield wins and draws and stuff like that, of that nature. And I think it's more hope than anything else. But Damien is bringing us back onto Cardiff City, or Swansea City, should I say, the Cardiff-Swansea game. And fair enough. That is facts. You are backing this up with facts, and I respect it. And if Cardiff score 2 goals, then I'm just going to sit here all smug, like...
No chance. I'm with Damien. I think it's comfortable, this one. I think.
But I love Damien. I love Damien at the same time.
He's a top guy.
He's
absolutely top guy. But no, to be honest with you, I think it's a difficult one to predict that. It's always hard to go into derbies. And, you know, we went through there, and I think that is a real opportunity for Swansea. If they do that double-double, I think it really does cement their place. They'll be feeling really confident. It'll mean that psychologically next season, whenever they play Cardiff, they've still got that to go over them. It's something we saw a lot, and I'm sorry to do this as a comparison. I apologise to everybody. But you think about Celtic and Rangers. When Celtic had that real period of dominance, when Rangers had dropped down, gone away, and they really just pushed how much better than them they were. They really forced it over them and made sure they knew it every time they played. And potentially, if they can start to do that to Cardiff, Swansea can really establish themselves as the only team that count.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I hope for Damien's sake that they do them, because I don't really care for Cardiff. So let's move on. I want to bring this up because we're talking about Borough for a second. And he's absolutely right, because Borough do go for more goals. And I always want to see us go for more goals, and we never do. And Borough are really, really good at that. Once they score 1, they score 2, they score 3, they score 4. And that's what you want to see as a football fan.
It is, and I think that's really going to be the difference that we've seen in the last few weeks. That's why the momentum feels so much stronger behind Borough than it does behind United, because even when United win, generally speaking, it's been 1 goal. It's been a little bit of, defensive solidity and then taking a chance when we've had it. And I think that doesn't exactly inspire confidence from a lot of people. I don't think you sit there watching it and go, this is a team that are going to get automatically promoted. Whereas if you see Borough win 4-0, 5-0 every other week, then you're going to start to believe that hype and really get behind that momentum. But that's not to say that there's one way to get it right. I think as long as United do keep winning, what we have shown is that not just are we defensively strong enough, but I think mentally we're strong enough to overcome some of those blips. And that's what we're really going to have to rely on if we're going to stay ahead of Borough. But admittedly, the fact that they keep scoring so many goals scares the hell out of me. And I'd love for us to just go and beat somebody 6-0 one day.
Yeah, me too. I think it all stems from the manager. I hate to say it, but I feel like Heckingbottom is definitely more defensive than Carrick is. And like you say, it doesn't really matter how you get over the line. As long as you do it, that is all that matters. No one cares about how you got promoted the season after because you're playing Premier League football. Anyway, let's move on to talking about Hull City versus Rotherham United. And we both think this is going to be a drab game.
Yeah, this is not going to be a classic, I don't think. Apparently this is a really big game for Hull. They've got an offer on the tickets, I think. So they're expecting sort of over 20,000 for the first time since, I think, the Premier League days. It may be that they've had it on these again, similar days last season or the season before that I'm just not aware of. I know when they did this really big push on it last season, they then went and lost the game. They got all the fans in. They got it as boosted as they could and then lost, I think it was to Barnsley that time. So this time, I'm expecting it, unfortunately, for their fans to be a similarly disappointing afternoon, albeit it'll be fantastic to see the atmosphere there.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is just Sheffield United and I'm talking from experience, but every time we have a big game or we get the fans in or it's live on Sky, it always seems to be a little bit drab, dry, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know whether that is just us or whether that's a lot of people, but maybe it's just the players, like all those fans, they feel the pressure. But let's see what happens. Rotherham have been pretty good, to be fair, since Paul Warne's left. And they're only 2 places off the drop, but they're 4 points off with a game in hand. I think they'll be fine. Be fine. But unfortunately for Hull, I don't think they are getting anywhere near the playoffs. They are 13 points behind, and I think they really, really wanted that. But yeah, there's always next season. Now let's move on to Sheffield United, who are playing Norwich City at Carrow Road. This is going to be a really tense one for us Bladesmen. Norwich City are very, very, I don't know, they're so inconsistent. Like some games they can go and take its teams, score loads of goals, and then they go and play poor, concede a goal and lose at home. It's like, I don't know what to expect from them. They are Norwich, innit?
Yeah, they have very much become the meme of Norwich, innit? Because you're right, they can go either way. They're so inconsistent. They have weeks where they're brilliant and weeks where they're not. I sat down with a Norwich fan yesterday where we went through a little bit of prep for the game. What does he feel? And it's just the mistakes they make defensively that I think really worries their fans. You know, we saw it when they played Burnley on Sky earlier this year. When Burnley pressed them high, when they really stepped up onto their 2 centre-backs, that then forced mistakes. And they actually gifted them 2-3 goals, I think, on a plate that day. So that's what United have got to do. We've got to be really positive, taking the game to them, should I say, and really trying to put pressure on them to try and force those same mistakes, because they will give us chances if we try and take them. Unfortunately, you know, we've talked about it already. That's not really United's full style. We might do that for an hour, or we might do it for 45 minutes. We rarely do that for 90, and I'm just not sure that we'll be able to avoid conceding, because they've got some really talented players, particularly up front. You know, Nunes, we're talking Puke, you're talking Sargent. There is opportunities there where if you do sit too far back, they will punish you. And I think this could be one of those games where United get ahead, sit on it, and concede late. I think it'll be frustrating, but it's still a good point. And it's a point that would keep us ahead of Borough with, well, one of our hardest games that we've got left ticked off on our calendar.
I agree, because I've said on social media, I've been quite vocal about this. If we get through this game and the Burnley game, we have got some very, as you said on League of 72, I can't remember how you phrased it. I would say winnable. You would say...
I think I said favourable.
Okay. Because you've not watched it back, have you?
That's definitely not what I said. I've not watched it back because I hate watching myself on anything at all, Nick. So I have no idea what I said.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It was, when was it? A couple of weeks ago?
It was 10 days ago. I know that because it's 10 days since I caught COVID, and that's where I got it.
Oh, really? Don Goodman? It was Don Goodman, was it?
Must have been.
That is a story. That is a headline. Don Goodman. He's not only giving us grief when he's commentating, he's also giving us COVID as well. How very dare he? Anyway, let's move on to talking about West Bromwich Albion versus your favourite team, Millwall. Now, we've both gone for West Brom wins. Your mate, I've forgotten his name, the guy from Millwall Fan TV or whatever, I've forgotten his Dan, that's it. He's Big Dan, because he was also on a League of 72 video as well. I don't know if you caught that, but that's also a really, really good video. And with this being a championship video, go and watch that. League of 72 are doing some great stuff. This is almost like we've not been told to say any of this, but we do like League of 72.
Yeah, it's almost as if we're being paid for it, which would be a dream, I think, Nick, if we could just get paid to promote other people. But I think it's a really good video, and Dan's a really nice guy. He had a little bit of a joke with me, because I think they're the channel, the only one in the championship who's got more followers on YouTube than we have. I think he called me out for this, but I think that's because you called him out, and then I had to stand next to this really intimidating Millwall fan and be like, no, it wasn't me, it was somebody else.
So, do you know what? I'll address this now. So I did that as a bit of a joke, and the Millwall fans went mental about it. Like it was just a little tongue-in-cheek comment. But actually, there are a few channels that have got more subscribers than both of us. I think that a lot of them don't get a lot of views. So I don't know if they've fallen off or whether they might have paid for some subscribers. But Norwich City have, for me, the best channel in the championship other than us. Norwich City have definitely got more subscribers than Millwall. We aren't far off. So if you're going to give us a subscribe, do it now because we need to catch them. Nobody likes Millwall after all.
I hope I'm not doing any more videos with Dan.
They like that. They want that.
They do. And unfortunately, I think, as you know, we're going to follow that up by both predicting them to lose. But it's really hard to go away to West Brom. You know, since the new manager came in, whose name I've forgotten, since he arrived, they had a fantastic home record. I think United are the only team to have beaten him since he came in. So that's a really, really good record that they've got. That was his first game in charge. Corberan is his name.
I'm waiting for you to stop to tell you then.
I knew you were going to cut in and you were going to tell me. And I was like, no, I'm going to talk until I remember. And now I've remembered, so it's fine. But no, I think West Brom will win this game. They've got a fantastic home record. I think it'll be a tough game. I think it'll be tight. But I think this will be the start of seeing other teams really put the pressure on Millwall for that final spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, because they're another team that aren't massively consistent. So they had a really nice spell, and now I think they've come out of it a little bit. So yeah, let's see what they do against West Brom. It's going to be a really tough game for them. Let's move on to talking about their final game: Wigan Athletic versus QPR. We don't think this is going to be a classic, but you think that I'm not even going to say his name. I'm not even going to say his name. That bloke's QPR is going to win his first game. That's right, isn't it?
Second, they beat Watford, didn't they?
Oh, Watford in it.
Watford in it. I know. Wilder's first game at Watford, they beat them. But yeah, this is one where it's more about Wigan, to be honest. You know, they've had the points deduction during the international break. They're now a long way from safety and look pretty much a surefire bet now for relegation. And it's a shame, you know, I really like Wigan. I think they're a decent side. Don't massively like that man and therefore would rather his teams didn't win. But I think they'll win this game and that'll probably be enough for them to say that they're safe and they'll stop looking over their shoulder in terms of relegation as well. It's been a terrible end to the season for QPR. They really need the summer to rebuild. I think they're going to have to probably go through some big sales, see if they can get decent money for Ilias Chair or for one of their other talents, maybe Willock, albeit with his injuries. I don't think anyone's going to pay quite what they'd want, but for them, it's going to be a massive rebuild in the summer, and they just need one result like this to make sure it's a rebuild for the Championship.
Yeah, fair enough. 5-0 QPR banker, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up, Ollie, at the end. We've not given our bankers, but I think this is a good idea because I always struggle to remember who I've gone for and who you've gone for, and then I have to watch the whole video through to find out. So if we just had a banker section at the end, that would help me out a whole lot. So do you want to give me your banker now?
Do indeed. I am going to go for my banker. I'm going to go for Preston at home to Blackpool. I know it's the derby, but I think for me, that's a result that I'm really confident in. I think Preston will definitely be the team who take the points in that.
Fair enough. And now, because I'm trying to catch you, I'm going to have to go big, and I'm going to go Luton 1-0 because that's what Luton do.
Yeah, and I'm fairly confident you got a perfect banker on this not that long ago, just going 1-0 Luton. So it seems to work for you, but at some point they will let you down. I'm sure of it. This is your equivalent of my Preston 0-0 from the start of the season.
It absolutely is. Anyway, I think we're just about done, mate. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this because I've not done a video for ages. I'm just giving them to you and Hal. Do your thing. And I've really enjoyed getting involved and doing some predictions.
Yeah, always nice to be back. Always nice to be doing the predictions. And yeah, not miss any more now till the end of the season. We've got to be on it, Nick. We're doing every one. 45 games.
Also, we might be doing something different. So, yeah. You should already know this, so we'll talk about it afterwards. But yeah, you've got that to look forward to anyway. So thank you very much, Ollie. As always, really, really looking forward to the last few games of the season. It's going to be a tense one, but hopefully the Blades will get there. And everybody who's watching this, your teams win this weekend too. See you later.